Hey everybody, this is Peter at 630. I hope you're doing great today. This is going to be an assembly video for the electric around the block e-bike. This one is a 500 watt. It also comes in 250 watt. So we'll open this up and show you how to do it. You should note that the battery will ship due to federal regulation, will ship in a separate box. So these bikes come in two boxes, one for the bike, one for the battery. To deal with the battery, we have a separate video you can also find on the assembly page on 630.com. So here we go. Let's open the box and we'll pull this puppy out and show you how to do it. You may want to have a friend to help you with that. It's kind of a heavy bike, being an e-bike. See if we can get it to stand here. There's an assembly guide in the box, and then also a smaller box for the parts. For parts and with some rudimentary tools. We definitely recommend that you use your own tools. To assemble a bicycle, this bicycle you'll need Allen wrenches, 4mm, 5mm, 6mm. Regular wrenches will be 9mm, 10mm, 12mm, 13mm, 14mm, and 15mm, as well as some box cutters or utility knife or something else to cut the packaging off with, and then of course a pump to inflate the tires. The first thing we're going to do is we'll start removing the packaging. First, remove the small white box. Go ahead and open everything up just to make sure that you have the parts that you need. There we go. And so this is the charger, which will go with the battery, which will come in a separate box. And then we'll grab the small parts box, which has pedals and just the lock nut cap in it. This one says that there's another part. I'm not going to mention it because it's not part of the bike and it shouldn't be on this sticker. The front wheel is installed with axle nuts. Inside the box here are pedals. Very necessary, and then this little lock nut cover, which is not so necessary. It's really cosmetic, but there it is. We'll set these to the side for now. Let's go ahead and continue with taking the packaging off. Front fender. Front wheel. On the front wheel, there's some packaging, black packaging. Remove that. Discard along with the cardboard. Front wheel has a rotor for the disc brake. Don't touch the rotor. It shouldn't have oil on it. There we go. That'll do the trick for now. Okay, one of the first steps to do, I want to make sure that you understand that the bike is shipped with the forks in the reverse direction. This is so that it can ship properly. You want to go ahead and first thing, turn those around so they're facing forward, and then the forks will slope away from the rest of the bike towards the front. If you have the forks backwards like this, the way that they're packaged, the wheel will be much too close to the pedals and your foot will hit it when you turn. So turn that around 180 degrees. You'll also find that there is black plastic in the bottom of the forks. Packaging, toss that, has nothing to do with the functionality of the bicycle. And remove some more packaging here. Now what I like to do to get started is go ahead and we'll put the front wheel in. That way the bike will hold itself up when we put the kickstand down. So loosen the axle nuts a little bit. These little guys right here. Washers back so you have some thread exposed there on the axle. And then you can go ahead and slip the front wheel in. For the disc brake is going to go on the left side of the bike, which is the non-chain side. You can also tell because there's a flange here on the bottom of the fork, which is where the disc brake calipers will mount. So we'll just go ahead and set the fork onto the wheel there. like that. At this point, I like to put the kickstand down and the bike will hold itself. Okay, now we'll install the handlebars. When you do this, you want to make sure that the cable configuration is correct before you install the stem into the headset, into the head tube of the bicycle frame. When you're about to do that, please know that there is packaging on the bottom of the stem. So there's this tubular piece of black plastic that is packaging. You can just discard that. And then you want to make sure that you pull all the cable that you can, get slack, especially from the disc brake caliper down here, to give you the room you need to go ahead and slip that stem right into the head tube. Okay? And then we will tighten that down with the 6mm Allen. When you're ready for that to center, you can go ahead and stand over the wheel and make sure that the stem lines up nice and parallel with the wheel, and then tighten it down. Give it a good amount of torque there. You never want that to twist while you're riding. And then with the handlebars, go ahead and loosen that clamp bolt. Angle the handlebars up to your desired position. Normally we start off with the grips parallel to the ground. You can also go higher or lower depending on your preference. And then as well, just tighten that clamp bolt down. Technically a screw, I believe. You can call it either one. And then the stem actually can also be raised or lowered to your preference. And then you can see the cable configuration here is that the clamp, the caliper cable will cross over and then come over from the opposite side of the left side grip, and then the throttle control and the gears will also cross over. Not the throttle control, sorry, the gears will also cross over from the opposite side. And that allows the handlebars to be turned back and forth like that. Then we'll go ahead and tighten it down. Make sure to get the little tab on the washer into the hole on the fork drop out. Make sure your wheel is centered and tighten it down very tightly with a 15mm wrench on both sides. First one, then the other a little bit. Excellent. So that's the front wheel. Now let's go ahead and do the pedals. Take the plastic off of them. With the pedals, as you may or may not know, there is a right pedal and a left pedal. It's very important. They're marked with stickers because they have different threads on them. So the right pedal will only go into the right crank and the left pedal will only go into the left crank. The left pedal in particular you need to pay attention to because it is reverse threaded, also called left-hand threaded. So instead of righty-tighty like normal, it will be lefty-tighty. Okay, so let's do it. Another way to think of it, in a bike shop, generally mechanics will put these in at the same time. While the bike is in a stand, they can do it very quickly. We'll just do them one at a time here on the floor. And they both rotate towards the front of the bike. That's how they can do it so fast, both pedals at the same time in a bike shop. And that's as far as I can get it. Finger tighten, we'll do the left one. We'll show you a nice close-up so you can see the reverse threaded. But I'm also rotating this one towards the front of the bike. And then when you get it to more than finger tight, go ahead and tighten it down all the way with a 15mm wrench. Make sure it's nice and snug. Also in a bike shop, it's usually recommended to put grease on the threads of the pedal. You can certainly do that, you don't have to. The main point of that is so that if your bike experiences corrosion from being left outside, that you can easily remove the pedals later on. If you don't have grease and you'd like to add grease, this can always be done at a later date, you know, anytime in the next several months or even year or so. It's just to make sure that you can go ahead and remove those pedals again and they won't get frozen in there with corrosion. Okay, let's do the seat post now. I love the seat post. This is a really good one. Please pay attention because I'm going to show you what happens to a lot of folks, okay? They go start to put the seat post in and then, oh no, they lost it. In this case, it stopped, thank God. I can yank it out. It's actually kind of jammed in there. I was able to pull it out. You may have to use a tool to get it back out. If it goes all the way back in, all the way down in there, you're going to have to turn the bike upside down and start banging on the bottom of the bike with a hammer. We have a video for that too. What you can do to really prevent that is go ahead and put the seat, also called a saddle, into the under the seat post as it is, okay? And go ahead and tighten that down. In this case, it's a 14 millimeter wrench. We'll grab our 14. When you tighten these down, you want to do them evenly. There are 2 nuts on either side of the saddle clamping assembly. So you'll tighten one side a couple turns, the other side a couple turns, until that's nicely in there. You're not going to have the correct seat angle, but you can adjust that later. Now, before you insert it, in a bike shop, they will always put grease on this, just an automotive bearing grease or something. This is also not a functional reason for that. It's just so that in case you were to leave the bike outside or it got corroded, you'd be able to remove the seat post again later on. A lot of times, for a bike that's 10 or 15 years old and has either been ridden in the weather a lot or has been left out in the weather, that can become seized in there to the point that it's almost impossible to remove. However, this is not a necessary step to put grease on there. You can just go ahead and slide it in there, and you can add grease there at any later date if you feel like so inclined. Go ahead and we're going to, with the quick release in the open position, we're going to turn around while holding onto the nut, tighten that nut down until it's pretty firm, and then we're going to close the lever and see how it does. That was a nice firm feeling. It's holding the seat nice and securely, so that was a good fit. Sometimes you need to go a little bit tighter, sometimes a little bit looser. You'll get the feeling of it. Also, when you clamp down the lever, it should be lined up with the body of the seat post clamp. That will make sure that it works properly. These will not work properly if they're positioned incorrectly. And you can also break it. If you were to, say, try to clamp it in the downward position or in the backwards position like this, these are ways that you could actually break your seat post clamp. Okay, so last and probably least, before we get on to the battery, the disc brake, and the gears, is going to be the front fender. Fenders, of all the things on a bicycle, fenders are not precision parts. I want to let you know this. I don't really know if there's any bicycle where the fenders are going to be exactly how you want them to when you first put them on. They're going to need a little bit of nudging, some adjustment, some finessing, okay? So let's not be afraid of that. Let's put the fenders on and then we'll make them perfect. They probably won't be perfect when we first put them on because they haven't been installed on the bike before, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, let's go ahead and remove the nut from the fender tab mounting screw that goes through the fork. We will slide the fender through from the rear with the tab in the back of the fork. Go ahead and put the long bolt through again with one washer on it. We will hook the tab on there, put the other washer on, and then start to thread the nut back on there. The nut will stop about halfway on. That's because it has a nylon locking mechanism in there. That's to hold it on even through vibration, okay? So don't get worried when you can't put that nut on the screw all the way, on the bolt all the way. It's not supposed to. You're going to have to use a tool. You're going to need a 10 millimeter wrench, or I'm going to use a socket here, and then also a Phillips screwdriver, okay? Very simple. I'm going to put the Phillips here in the front and the 10 millimeter wrench in the back here, and then tighten them on down. Like I said, you will need a tool to get that nut on there because of the nylock locking feature. As I'm putting this on, I can see that it's going on a little crooked. I don't know if that's because it's just angled or what's going on. This is normal because we can fix this by moving it back and forth like this. See how the fender is completely movable and adjustable for whatever you need. Nothing to be alarmed about right there. We're going to use a 4 millimeter Allen here to loosen the screws on the fork dropouts, one on each side. Remove them from the frame and then simply reinstall them with the fender strut in place here. Go ahead and get that one started on one side. Whenever you're mounting anything that has more than one bolt or screw, you want to go ahead and get all of them started, all of the fasteners started before you tighten any of them down. That will save you a lot of trouble in the future as you work to get everything put where it needs to go. Okay, now I'm tightening these down all the way. And then we'll take a look and see what the fender looks like on the front wheel. All right, it's off. It's off a little bit. This one's pretty close, maybe leaning a little bit this way. There we go, we fixed it. Perfect. This one also off. You can see it's veering off to the right side of the bicycle. I'm not going to panic here. I'm just going to yank it up like that. It's perfect, okay? That's how it goes. That's how fenders work. Okay, there we go. We've assembled the bike, but we still need to address the disc brakes, the gears, and also how to do the battery. We have 3 other videos that address those that are attached to this one, so please see those. Hey there. All right, let's look at the disc brakes on the 630 e-bikes. The disc brake will arrive like this. These are really quite simple, even though a lot of people are not familiar with how the disc brake works. The rotor is already attached to the wheel. So we have the wheel installed, the rotor is already installed from the factory. Now we need to put the caliper onto the bicycle. There are 2 mounting screws on the side of the disc brake. We'll remove those. These 2 mounting bolts thread directly into the brake itself. So we will go ahead and slip the brake pads over the rotor. And then the brake will mount behind the flange on the fork. There we go. Got that one threaded. And then that one. 5mm Allen wrench. We'll go ahead and tighten these. These can be tightened all the way down. Just like with anything, when you're tightening something with multiple bolts, tighten them evenly. So tighten one a little bit, then the other one, and get a nice positive connection. Now we'll go around to the back side of the brake. There is another 5mm bolt. We're going to turn this one in. It will bring the inner pad into the rotor. So right now I'm turning clockwise until I feel that inner pad contact the rotor. Now there are 2 adjustment bolts on the back part of the brake. These will need to be loosened. Now the brake can be positioned however you need it onto the rotor. There's a little trick for this. Once these are loose enough that the brake can be positioned laterally up and down, it can be, you can see how it can be moved around now because it's loose enough to do that. Go ahead and squeeze the brake lever. And this will naturally position the pads exactly where they need to be. And then go ahead and tighten down those positioning screws since we have the correct adjustment. Nice and firm adjustment. At this point, the brakes are too tight. There you go, you can hear them rubbing quite tightly. So we'll go back to the back again, and we will now loosen that inner pad. We'll back it out. So now I'm turning counterclockwise. Give the lever a couple squeezes. Pick the bike up and see how it spins. Now there's no friction or rubbing at all right now. However, the brake feels a little bit loose. I can tighten that one of 2 ways. I can either tighten the cable down here, or a little bit easier way is just to turn the barrel adjuster here counterclockwise, or the one at the lever. You can use a combination of both. That will tension the cable so that you get the right feel at the lever. You want to feel the brake start to engage the rotor about halfway through the stroke here. But the main thing is that we have a nice stopping feel, nice adequate stopping feel at the lever, and then also that the wheel spins freely of the pads, how we have it right here. That's all there is to that. If you look down on the rear hub of the bicycle, which is also the motor, you'll see that it's stamped with the voltage for your bike. It's either 48 volts or 36 volts. This is important because the batteries and the chargers are also different depending on the voltage. Your bike should come with the compatible battery, but you want to go ahead and check and make sure that you have everything that you need. If you look again on the motor, you'll see in this instance, this one says 48 volts. You'll see a corresponding 48 volt on the battery on the barcode. If you have the 36 volt bike, then you'll have the 36 volt battery also indicated on the barcode. And then the chargers are different as well. For the 48 volt battery, you'll see that it has an output of 54.6 volts on the charger. On the 36 volt battery, you'll have a 42 volt output on the charger there. To install the battery, it's really quite simple. You do need to make sure that you pay attention to the guide rail on the bottom of the rear rack, and then it engages rails on the bottom of the battery. When those are properly engaged, the battery will slide right in, and then you'll hear a very positive clicking noise when it engages with the bike, just like that. At this point, the battery is automatically locked to the bicycle. You do not need to use your key to lock it. It is locked. There's no way to remove it. To disengage the battery from the bicycle, put the key in, turn it, and then the battery can come out. On the bottom of the battery is the on-off switch. You can see the indications for off and on. A little 0 for the off and a 1 for the on. We're going to go ahead and turn that in the on position because we're also going to do a charging demonstration. Engaged. For the display up at the handlebar, there's a little M. You can go ahead and hold that down for 2 seconds or so, and then the display will come on. It can show you if you're in first, second, third, fourth, or fifth for the pedal assist. Also, you can click through and see your miles per hour, how far distance traveled, time elapsed, and then also, most importantly, your battery charge, if it's empty or full, and how much it's charged. Okay, in order to charge the battery, for this demonstration, we will remove the battery. However, you can charge the battery in the bicycle. And to get your charger, I'm going to walk over here to the outlet. I have my battery, I have my charger, and then a connection cord from the charger to the battery. The charger has a round plug that goes into the port on the battery. Please make sure when installing this that the battery is actually in the on position. It can spark, don't be alarmed. In the on position, it won't spark though. And then we go ahead and plug the battery into our outlet. And you'll see the indicator light will start off red on the charger. And then when it's ready, it will go to green to indicate that we have finished charging. If you don't see a red or a green light, something is incorrect with the battery or the charging, so you'll have to reassess. Sometimes we found that actually switching outlets helps. That's about it as far as the battery goes. If you have any questions, do give us a call or email us at the team at sixthreezero.com, and we'll be glad to assist you.